Hello all, back again, part 4 for this defense tower, and a lot has changed since the last one. Now this is the version that was worked on in the last video. One of the last things I did was rebuild these turret mount positions. I went through and I textured and detailed some of this area. There's a number of things I wanted to do. One was to rebuild these turrets, move these inner solar panels so they weren't so shaded, although even though right now it looks like they're working pretty good, and a lot of other things. So to not waste your time, this is the new version. It's not fully finished yet, but I did just about everything I wanted to do, short of building the secure room and elevator going to it, which will contain the core and some fuel and critical parts, things like that. So I ended up redoing the solar panel setup again. I had it extending out on the sides over here before, and then I was looking at that, and it uses a lot of extra blocks, and it would disrupt some turrets from firing at certain angles, and I didn't really want that. So I ended up adding two solar panels to each one of these sides, then building a more elevated turret mount position. I also extended the base down another block, put a little white line there to kind of show you where your grass line is, I guess. So now it's easier to spawn, and you can sink it into the ground a little bit. Built these newer, lower profile solar panels that extend further out, and only 4 on each side rather than 6. Redid the sides, added a little more curvy blocks and some other deco pieces, going all the way up to the top. Made a little ridge here for mainly decoration, but I don't know if it would really help protect the artillery. I built these artillery mounts, so that's 2 blocks thick on the top, especially by where these are. And then with that 15th solar panel, I'm like, I got a great spot to add it right here in the center. So as this thing sits, one placed at high noon on a sunny day, well, maybe not. No, they're actually working. So basically every one of these solar panels can get maximum energy at the right time of day. Other than that, this thing currently has 4 capacitors on it. Now 2 I still got sitting here in what's left of this little startup area. I ended up embedding a couple capacitors and a couple 4 fuel tanks, 2 power generators, and 2 capacitors in the bases of each one of these main pillars that come up. Now these are important that the structure here stays supported, but this thing's really, really strong. One other thing I wanted to show you real quick is in the structural integrity. Now on the last tutorial I was thinking it wasn't working because I'm seeing everything in green. I mean it's a nice green too, it's not even fading, and I was thinking, well, it's not working. So as an example though, what if I start building this out? See how the colors are changing? It is actually working. In fact, now we're in red. If I go another block or 2, it will collapse. Or 3. Or 4. I'm way off. There it goes. So structural integrity is working, is the whole point of that, and it is very, very solid, and that's exactly what I wanted it to be. So there's not any real good way of taking this thing down. So that's kind of where it sits at this point. It's nearly complete. Did a lot of other little things too. I realized I didn't want players to be landing their ships up here. Say they were able to, even though it's pretty hostile. I'll give it credit for that. But I didn't want people to land up here. You have this landing pad here for restocking or chilling in this particular structure. But if you're an enemy, it's very, very mean. A couple of these turrets, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these grates here or not, but a couple of these turrets can shoot you on the inside. These can kind of get you on the edges. And beyond that, there are 4 sentry guns built into the ceiling that I'm thinking I may hide a sensor somewhere where, or like a motion sensor, where when you actually pull up here, these come out of the ceiling. So if you're running around flying and shooting this thing, you would not see those unless, of course, you knew they were there until you landed in this area after hopefully you took out a lot of the defenses. And then these things pop out to shoot you. Yeah, really, really nice tower, let me tell you. So the next part is I wanted to build out a room here to contain a lot of stuff, and it's going to need an elevator down from the landing pad. And another thing too is I wanted the ceiling of this 2 blocks thick, as well as the walls, and maybe the floor. But then again, you're not going to be able to get in that area, and if you're unfortunate enough to hop over here and jump down in here, you're kind of trapped. And there's some guns that could still shoot you. Now there's a couple areas under these turrets that have room in it right now, and you know, one other thought I had too is maybe I'll do this at some point, but this is a defense tower now, but it's got a fair amount of area in it, and I keep on thinking, you know, if this was raised up, I could add a hangar door here, and you'd have multiple floors that I could do stuff with. I have a farm, crafting, hangar, landing pads. This could be a player base, is the whole point. It would be a mean player base, and I'm going to try to arrange some kind of way of testing out how this thing actually works when it's all said and done. I think it's going to have pretty good results. One other thing too, due to the frame type structure it has versus like a solid area inside, it does save on some blocks. I'm not saying this thing's super inexpensive, but it's running a 3-hour and 20-minute construction time, and this is currently fully loaded with all but 4 sentry guns. So maximum amount of cannons, maximum amount of pulse lasers, rockets, plasma, miniguns, and these are all set up to exactly what the game limits allow. The only thing I can add is 4 more sentry guns, and I will before it's said and done, and probably more security for the inner room. So at this point, what I was honestly thinking about doing is to beef this up and to add another layer on the ceiling. I was thinking about taking this floor, this entire floor, down a block or 2 actually, so I can get room to add in a second layer on the floor and a second layer on the ceiling. And due to the nature of this kind of creation, I think it would be very helpful. Last thing I want to do is have someone find some loophole on how to disable this thing. Right now I'm not sure exactly how you do it. Obviously try to get to the core. Good luck trying to take out its power. That's going to be extremely difficult to do. I'm not even sure how I'd try to pull it off if I was planning out a raid on this thing myself. So I guess the first thing I want to do here is we will grab this entire floor. And cut it, paste it, and move it down. So I was going to go down 2, but I'm thinking 1 because I can add another layer on the bottom of this if I really wanted to. but I'm more concerned about adding another layer on the top. So this would work. So we'll paste it here, and let me get a symmetry plane going here. Let's go this. Yeah, in this case, I'm going to go this angle. I've been shifting the symmetry around one direction to the other on this build, depending on what side I'm working on. Alright, so this would be the ground floor of the room. The first thing I want to do is establish an elevator. Not a lot of places to put an elevator, but I'm thinking on one of these two sides. Just make a hole here. Let me go get some parts. One other thing I'm thinking about too is sealing the elevator. I guess I don't have to seal it from the top. I could leave it exposed like that. Or there's another trick I've done before where I actually take some staircases and I also experimented with force fields if I wanted to force field off this area, but kind of problematic, and I'd have to extend these beams out and do a bunch of stuff, and I didn't really find it worthwhile, and it would up the cost of the of this. So what I'm thinking about doing, so we got a couple stairways on either side, kind of off to the side, and that would loop down into a elevator that extends down from there. For right now, just get a solid wall on one side. Great thing about this is I can seal it using a shutter door. These guys here. And we can automate the shutter door to automatically open when you get near it too. So could do something like that. And then, yeah, so once you get near here, or actually I'll probably open that up once you land. But the same sensor will also activate all these turrets and potentially even shine light down on you. Haven't put in any light in this yet. Speaking of light, let me turn that off. Alright, so on the sides here, to make this strong, thinking of a couple things. Now, I have thought about adding some of the armored glass here, and I might do that and then put something over the glass to give it some extra protection. And of course, keep the core away from that part of it. So, let me get some of that. I always call this fancy glass. See, this is like regular glass, and this is fancy glass. So if you ever hear me say that, it's what I called it since the first time I seen it. Don't ask me why. It just looked fancy in comparison to the other glass. I'm thinking 2 separate windows here. So that in the center for now. Yeah, I'll just put in a full block temporarily here. And then what I was thinking is on the other sides here, we will go with these shutter windows, which are actually fairly strong. And I'm just going to use the transparent ones. I'm not worried about it holding air, and I'd rather have it just easier to see through. Just texture something behind here a minute. Alright, so that would provide some pretty good wall of protection here. Not to mention, if you're engaging this, I think you're going to be more worried about the turrets than trying to shoot this particular room. Especially if you're not going to get to the core anyway. So, let's see. I'm going to take out these roundish blocks here. Replace them with squares. So, one thing that could be done is I did want to thicken this up even more. So, could add another row of blocks out here. Actually, tell you what, I'm gonna just fill this in for now. And I'm just running out of supplies. Yeah, I think I'll build this out. I might not do it right now, but maybe add another row of blocks and make some little bulgy or roundy thing there. Try to make it look decorative, but actually function. So I'm not wasting blocks, but I'm making the walls tougher. So that gives us this interior space now with an elevator coming down to it. I don't think I'm going to bother with any windows on the sides. And again, double wall thickness. Just trying to make it a little fancier now so I don't replace too much later. Just trying to come up with something that might look halfway alright here. Again, it could change before it's said and done. But that gives you a nice little wall there. As in these blocks here too, they can go away. Now with the other tutorials I've done showing you like what I do with walls and things like that, I probably will do something like that with this area as well. Just haven't done it yet. This side has no elevator. So again, of course, I got my symmetries playing backwards. What was that? Sometimes I'm just clueless. Why did that happen? Something collapsed, probably, what, this block here? But the structural integrity is insane. Why would it collapse? I don't really know. But again, shutting off SI. Oh man. And of course, my symmetry plane was off. And I'm screwing this up. Alright, here I'm going to turn that off. Clean up the mess. starting to think I know what collapsed, though, this random wall that was just hanging here. All right. So, laying out this room, it needs to contain a core. It needs to contain probably a couple more fuel tanks. I was debating on whether or not this should contain other survival features. Now, it'll have O2 in here, but I was thinking, you know, should this be a kind of a usable stop in case you need supplies? Should it have storage? Should it have cooking? Should it have any features like that? Each thing I add would add to the cost of the tower and not really its primary purpose. So I don't know yet on that one. I was thinking about it a little bit, and not really sure how I want to do that yet. But I guess maybe I'll get a couple storage crates in here. Probably not a storage system. It's going to need ammo as well, and I want to make sure that's very safe. To start with, I'm thinking I'll put the core on one side, maybe opposite of the elevator. And right now the wall here is kind of on the thin side, so we got to fix that up first. So I'm thinking maybe dumping the core like right up here. So for right now, we'll just kind of plan it out and get some blocks all around here. Let me go get a core. And I will take out the other core. In fact, I'm going to take out these capacitors and all this stuff now. Okay, new core. Now, solar capacitors. It already has 2, but when I was sitting here working on this thing in the daytime, it literally maxed out the capacity of 2, so I was not able to save any more power. Just want to see what it's currently doing. So, current output 772, average output 502, and consumption 15K. Consumption 204. So as you can see, this thing's using a lot less power than it's taking in currently from solar, which is very good. But you want it to stay going through bad weather and night and everything else too, so can't hurt. Let's see. So let's get a couple capacitors as well. I'm thinking 4 total on this would be kind of nice. And I've only been using these T2 fuel tanks so far. Don't know why. I think it has to do with the unlock cost, but due to the guns on this thing, the unlock cost is going to be high anyway. So let's grab a couple of the big ones. I guess I want this thing to stay rolling regardless. So there's going to be two layers of roof over this too. So let's see, how about we add another fuel tank here and here, and then capacitors. Half wondering if we shouldn't angle a couple of those up on the top. Maybe something like that. add an extra layer of protection on the outside over here yet before it's said and done too. Alright, so let's get the elevator more situated. Not a lot of space in here, but I think it should work. Another big thing is ammo. Could run regular ammo boxes, but I think a container system would be a better way to go. And I'm trying to think on where exactly I would want to start putting that. I'm kind of wondering if I shouldn't wrap it up along the ceiling a little bit. We got right here. Is it just one block? That's just one block right now. Yeah, it's going to be extended out. Okay. Let's get some parts for that. Ammo controller and a bunch of these containers. Now, due to this thing having every weapon imaginable at max levels, I'm not 100% sure on how much ammo capacity it should have for that. But, I don't know, the more the merrier, I guess. So I'm thinking of setting up some kind of system across the ceiling and then extend down at some point for a controller, like maybe right here. And I'm still trying to keep a little bit of separation between parts if possible. So what happens if we ran ammo across the ceiling like that? We already got probably well more than you'd need, a lot more. In fact, on the newest ship I put out, the Sphinx, that only had 40k ammo, and I almost thought that was borderline overkill. But this thing has a lot more guns on it yet. But I am going to reduce it a little bit. I think if we did that. So 160. That's pretty good. Really is pretty good. Okay, so other things. O2 tanks and a station. This isn't quite as critical, so I think I'm going to put this one of these sides here. And that'll probably be enough O2. I mean, it's only covering this room. That would last a long time. So, looking at some regular cargo containers, what I like about some of these new cargo containers is these ones especially, not only do they hold a decent amount, they have a lot of hit points, like 1,000 hit points for a cargo box, which is kind of cool. Slam a couple of those in there. Might reserve that upper row there for more blocks and things. So what else would we want this to have? Probably a med station. And, you know, since I went this far, I might as well throw in some kind of cooking. Oh, offline protection big time. Don't know if I want to go as far as a armor repair. Definitely could put in an armor locker though. Start putting some of these in places here. Okay, so you come down from the elevator here. This is open space. Got a controller there. Wondering if I could keep all this tight on one side or the other, or put some more parts underneath the core on this side. I don't know. Kind of like that there. Med station, and then we'll try to keep some other parts close by. I'm probably going to seal this bottom area off with a door or two. Maybe I'll do that right now. Okay, then we can get a door there. In that chunk of the elevator, there is no O2, but does anybody really care? I don't think I do. Okay. Oh, what could I do with this ammo storage here to make it pretty? And potentially more safe. Guess I got these windows coming out too far. So I'm thinking I might mod the windows and make them only 3 rows instead of, or 3 blocks instead of 4. Now this box has to reach to the top one, because right now I think I shut it off. Yeah, 2,400 or 24,000. Got an idea. Let's use a couple shaped container storage boxes. It's not as efficient, but in the present form, this thing is not even close on CPU, and I'm totally not concerned about it. In fact, CPU is 1930 with the storage in. It appears that base defense guns don't use any CPU. Everything else does, but the base guns don't. So that's kind of cool. It gives you a lot of wiggle room on a base. So for over here, I think I'm going to make that a little fancier yet. And it would add a little bit more protection in the process. So I kind of like to use these thin blocks here and there. They do some things kind of neat. They don't work very well in symmetry though. Alright. Let's get a door a minute. Alright, and then some more strength around the core yet again. I want it visible though. So I'm trying to think of a good way to make it strong and visible. Me. I'd like to run one of those steel grates above this. I think this would work. Let's try it. So a couple of these. Then a beveled edge. I can go a little bit right over the O2 there. Sometimes I really wish there was more slots down here, and at least in creative. Keep on having to pull stuff out of inventory and put it back in. But, yeah, I'm a freak. I understand. Alright. So, 1 row, 2 rows, and there'll be, yeah, I'm definitely going to put something out over here too to beef that up. Well, the next part I guess I would probably be doing here is, well, let's get a couple more components in. I'm thinking we want to get an offline generator, and you know, it's pretty cheap. I might as well throw in a fridge, maybe a cooking station, just to have some supplies here in case you're landing. Oh, and then it's still the O2 as well. Yeah, so I'm gonna just take a liberty and bash out part of these windows. For now. And we'll assume there's gonna be a wall behind here. And this puts in a nice spot to add in some O2 and thinking a fridge and a cooking station. And we'll block that off behind it. Get rid of those window parts too. Alright. Kind of neat what's going on with the center there. Got a little bit of space. And I guess the gravity generator, or I'm sorry, the offline protection. Not much room left, that's for sure. I could just kind of dump that out in the middle corner side over here. So we'll for now. Alright, so yeah, I'm not concerned with gravity. Ventilator. Oh, duh. What did I just grab? Sure wasn't a ventilator. Yeah, how about for now right there? Well, nah. Never mind. I got a different idea. How about above here? Here. Thinking about doing some curves. And I wanted to try something here too, rather than going with the same curve. Use these newer blocks. Make something like that. And what's kind of cool is that gives me an opportunity to still throw like a light here or something on the top middle. Or I'm thinking a pole comes down and then a light gets put there. Now another thing I wanted to be concerned about is I want a sensor that is down in the secure room that covers this area all the way to the ceiling here. So I can open this door with it, maybe turn on a light that's not there yet, and activate these sensory turrets. Now these sensors are always a pain in the butt to place sometimes. Well, it depends on how big of a vehicle you're dealing with, but yeah, you're trying to get them at the right angle. And the big problem I have with the sensors is when you're setting the range, there's one direction you cannot set, so it has to be like on the right plane. If you could just alter that too, it would be far easier, and you could place a sensor in a lot of different locations, but unfortunately it doesn't work very well that way. So this thing needs to be facing upwards somewhere, and that's always kind of a pain in the butt. But what if we built some kind of pedestal here? Might change that a little bit later. And then through a sensor facing upwards on top of it. Let me rotate that. Alright. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to make sure it works there. Set the range. Okay, so it's starting there, and it's going upwards, which is perfect. So, let's see. Right to the ceiling. Awesome. Which way did I just go? Okay. I want it right to the edge of the landing pad. And a little extended out more over here, probably to the edge there. And the same thing on the other side. Alright. And that should work. So let's give you a name. Let's call it landing pad. And assign these to that. also this particular door. I have to invert that. Nope. Yeah, so that's always scary. I'm digging it. I like how that works. A little deceptive. I mean, if you knew this tower and knew where they were and wanted to take this thing, of course, you could probably dive in here and start blasting away these sentry guns with an SV. Okay. It's coming along pretty good. I guess I'll stop the tutorial here. You got a pretty good point on where this is going. I just got some more monotonous work of texturing and probably detailing this area a little bit, and then probably do a little bit of a mod on either end of this over here to beef this up yet again. And I have this kind of turret mount looking thing over here too that at one point I did have a turret on it, but I have no more available turrets I could put anywhere. So I'm probably not going to use it. Might just kind of remove that out of the equation and change this around a little bit. Small little mod. And I did want to beef up this wall some more too. And but it's nearly complete at this point in time. Oh, and floor. I guess this would be a vulnerable part. If a player could sneak in here and start blasting the floor and then somehow jump up into there. Now, one thing I'm trying to make this defendable by is I have an older craft. I called it a breacher, and I've noticed that in a recent Excalibur video, he has something very similar to that. I think like a lockpick or something like that. Same idea. A very tiny SV that you can fly in these little crevices like this and go shoot stuff up. I'm trying to make this less vulnerable to something like that going at it. And that's why I'm trying to make this very hard to gain access to the base, short of one way, in which is heavily defended. So I'm hoping that this can defeat a trick like that too. It's a great idea though. I mean, it really is, and it's effective. So we will see. Anyway, y'all have a good day, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. See you later.